Hi there guys, and welcome back to another past paper video. Today we'll be looking at the 2025 January paper for Human and Social Biology, paper 2. Now this paper, at this time of the recording, this paper would have just been done a month ago, and what we're going to be doing is preparing for the 2025 May-June examination from this paper. So if you are studying for your exams, this is the paper for you. So let's get right into the paper. For those of you who are sitting the examination for the very first time, remember your Human and Social Biology paper 2 is going to be for an approximate 2 hours, and it consists of 6 questions which are broken down into 2 sections. You must answer all questions, so there are no option questions, and you must write all your answers in the booklet that you are provided with. So let's get right into this paper. Let's see what they did for this exam. Section A. The first question asks you to define the term balanced diet. Now, a balanced diet is one that contains foods from all 6 Caribbean recognized food groups, and it's eaten in the correct proportions, and it takes into account one's dietary requirements for age, sex, occupation, and medical conditions. Now, even though this seems like a mouthful, the question is only worth 2 marks. I just put everything in there. So once you mention that it is foods from all 6 food groups that are eaten in the correct proportions, then you should get the 2 marks. But in my definition, a balanced diet would take into account your sex, your age, your occupation, and your medical condition. Once your diet is fit for your life, then it would be the perfectly balanced diet for you. So what we would give you the 2 marks for, though, is the food from all 6 food groups and taken in the correct proportions. The second part of the question asks, identify the components in a balanced diet that cannot be digested. And you see the answer there, it is fiber. That's the answer. Fiber cannot be digested. And that's 1 mark. The next question, or the next part of the question, asks us, or it says to us, anorexia and bulimia are 2 common eating disorders. State 1 similarity and 1 difference between anorexia and bulimia. Now, for those of you who would have studied this, or your teacher would have gone through it with you, you can pause the video and you can write down your own answers. And then after you have paused the video and replayed, you can see if what I have as the answer matches up with what you know. All right, thank you for pausing the video. Now, the similarity. Both conditions, anorexia and bulimia, are caused by low self-esteem. Both conditions are focused on preventing weight gain, and persons have secretive food-related behaviors. So all of these are similarities. I gave you 3 because, you know, over here we always give multiple options. In case you're in the exam and you forget one, you have more. Now, both conditions, low self-esteem, they are focused on preventing weight gain, and they have secretive food-related behaviors. So that is to do with anorexia and bulimia. Now, let's look at the difference between them. Anorexia involves restricting food, and the person has a fear of gaining weight. Bulimia, on the other hand, the person does what we call binges, or eats large amounts of food, and then they purge by forcing themselves to vomit. So with anorexia, they do not want to eat, right? But with bulimia, they eat, but then they vomit or regurgitate the food by force. So that would be the main difference between anorexia and bulimia. And that would give you your 3 marks. Let's move on. And this question, it says, Figure 1 and Figure 2 show the nutrition facts labels of 2 snacks, A and B. Study the information provided in each label and answer the questions that follow. Now we have these 2 nutrition facts. We have them here. So it's giving us the serving size for both of them, the amount of calories per serving. We are already seeing some values that we can say, all right, this one has more calories than the other. We're looking at the total fat, saturated fat, sodium, cholesterol, trans fat, carbohydrate, protein, and some vitamins D, calcium, iron, potassium, vitamin A, and vitamin C. Now, the first one is figure A, or figure 1 for snack A, and figure 2 for snack B. Now, the question asks, suggest which of the 2 snacks, A or B, is the healthier option. Now, you might have just glimpsed that answer, but I want you to figure out reasons why, because that's the next part of the question. So it says, state which one of these snacks is the healthier option. If you're looking at it, the first things that should give you a red flag, which one is the healthier, just look immediately at the amount of calories that the package contains, right? And then you look at the total amount of nutrients that you are getting from each. Now, when you look at it, you can see that for fat there, we only have 1% fat in snack A, but a total of 18% total fat in snack B. So when we look at the fat, we can say that snack B is the more unhealthy option, and so snack A is the healthier option of the two. All right. Now, it says state 4 reasons to justify your answer. Now, if we are saying snack A is the healthier option, these are some of the reasons. 1, snack A contains less calories per serving. 2, snack A contains more nutrients than snack B. So let's go back up and check if this is true. We are looking at nutrients. If we look at snack A, we realize that it contains a total percentage of carbohydrates, which is 13%, while for snack B, it only has 9% carbohydrates. When we're looking at dietary fiber, snack A has 13%, but snack B has 0% dietary fiber. If we look at snack A, we realize that snack A has 64% vitamin C, but there is no vitamin C in snack B. We're also looking at the fact that we have vitamin A, potassium, iron, and calcium all being represented in snack A, but none of those vitamins and minerals are represented in snack B. So the fact that it has more nutrients than snack B would tell us that it's an healthier option. 3, snack A contains small traces of saturated fat, while snack B contains a whopping 40 grams of saturated fat, which is definitely not good. Not 40 grams, sorry, 40% saturated fat, which is definitely not good. Right? So if we are looking at which ones of the snacks is healthier, it is obvious that it's snack A. Another reason is that snack A contains fiber while snack B does not. So remember, fiber is very important for those of you who remember when you were doing food and nutrition, that fiber actually helps us prevent constipation. So that's one of the reasons why we know snack A is healthier. All right, let's look at C. In the Caribbean, it is recommended that individuals consume a diet consisting of foods from each of the 6 Caribbean food groups. Recommend 2 Caribbean food groups from which a laborer should consume higher amounts in order to ensure good health. Now, I have 2 here, staples and food from animals, but you know others, and as long as you know them, you can put them there. So you should know all 6 food groups. So my 2 is that they are staples and food from animals, and if it's for a laborer, these are the 2 food groups that you would want your laborer to be consuming, because we know staples contain carbohydrates and we know food from animals contain, if you said protein, you're correct, it contains protein. Now here it asks on a second part of the question, state 1 reason for each recommendation made above. So I said staples, they contain carbohydrates that provide energy, right? Remember that staples contain carbohydrates that give us energy. And we know our staples, right? We know the types of foods that contain carbohydrates or starchy foods. In the Caribbean, we eat a lot of ground provision, yam, cocoa, dasheen, all of those contain carbohydrates, and they are staples. Rice. Now, food from animals provide protein that helps with cell and tissue repair. Remember, if this is a laborer, he is going to be lifting a whole lot of heavy things. He's going to be moving up and down, so he's going to have a lot of wear and tear of the muscles, so he needs protein for the repair. All right, so that would give you your 2 marks, and that's the first question. How has the first question been so far? I think they have been very, very easy. If you're looking at the paper now and say, boy, I wish I could have sat this exam so far, then you are on the right track. You're actually on the right track to success in exams. Now let us look at question 2. It says state the difference between excretion and elimination. And what we saw with this question is that CSEC is doing a play on words, because usually it asks us in the syllabus to differentiate between excretion and egestion. But the word elimination is also a form of egestion, right? So excretion is the process by which metabolic waste is removed from the body, while elimination is the process of removing foreign substances or undigested food material from the body. So elimination is just a play on the word egestion, and that is why if you don't like English, I'm gonna suggest students that you try to expand your vocabulary, because we realize CXC will play on the words, you know the content, but you're just not familiar with that word. So try and expand your vocabulary in preparation for exams, all right? That would give you 2 marks. Now the next part of the question says, other than the kidney, name the 2 excretory organs in the body and state 1 excretory product from each named organ. Now an organ is the skin and its excretory product is sweat. And we know sweat contains water, mineral salts, and urea. And another organ is the lung, right? The lungs. The excretory product there is carbon dioxide, right? So remember, your excretory system comprises of your kidney, your skin, your lungs, and the liver. All right, so your excretory organs, these are the organs that help you to get rid of waste. So those would be your answers for your 4 marks. All right, let us move on. Now this part of the question, it says figure 3 shows a diagram of a nephron of a kidney, right? And if you remember when you were looking at excretion, you should have been made aware of the working part of the kidney, which is the nephron. This is the actual part that helps you to get rid of waste. Now, the question asks us, or says, list in the correct order the 4 structures after the Bowman's capsule through which the filtrate will pass as urine is being formed. So they're asking you to label, but they're asking you to write down the structures that follow the Bowman's capsule. And we have the Bowman's capsule here. And it's asking you to state all of the structures that follow the Bowman's capsule. So let us see if we can identify the structures. Now, each structure that follows the Bowman's capsule, you have 1 structure here, right? All right, we have 4 structures on the board. So what we do, students, is we must state all the structures that are present after the Bowman's capsule. So the Bowman's capsule is here labeled at the top. Now, if you remember, the structure that follows the Bowman's capsule, or this first part that I circled, is called your proximal convoluted tubule. Your proximal convoluted tubule. So that's 1 mark. The part which follows the proximal convoluted tubule is the loop of Henle. The loop of Henle, which is this U-shaped structure down here. Then after the loop of Henle, we have the distal convoluted tubule, the distal convoluted tubule, and after the distal convoluted tubule, you have the collecting duct. And you must give them the answer in that order for us to get our 3 marks, right? Now, I don't know how CXC would have marked the question, because if they ask you to list in the correct order the 4 structures after the Bowman's capsule, I think the mark awarded should have been 4 marks. However, we see on the paper that it is only worth 3 marks. So students, regardless of how many marks you see on the paper, give the amount of answers that you are asked, all right? So again, let's look at it. The proximal convoluted tubule follows the Bowman's capsule, then the loop of Henle, then the distal convoluted tubule up here, and finally the collecting duct. Now, if this diagram looks very strange to you, I'm going to ask that you go run over to your textbook, your notebook, and revisit the topic excretion, especially excretion in the kidney. All right. Let's look at this table now. It says table 1 shows the concentration of 3 substances found in the filtrate and urine of a healthy individual. So in the urine sample, they would have found 0.5 grams per centimeter cube of urea in the filtrate in the Bowman's capsule, 4 grams per centimeter cube of glucose in the Bowman's capsule, 0 protein in the Bowman's capsule. In the urine, the urea was 15 grams per centimeter cube. There was no glucose and no trace of protein. So we must remember that the filtrate is the substance which is moving throughout the nephron, and at the end stage, it becomes urine after multiple processes would have happened. So the filtrate is there before it becomes urine. All right, so make a note of that. Now explain why glucose is found in the filtrate but not in the urine. And students, this answer, you can't guess it. If you don't know, you don't know. Now, glucose, remember, also known as a sugar, is a small molecule that is pushed out of the blood during ultrafiltration. And ultrafiltration occurs in the Bowman's capsule. This accounts for glucose being in the filtrate. So, for those who just saw the diagram of the Bowman's capsule, your blood is going to be filtered by your kidney. Now, glucose is one of those substances that is going to be pushed out of your blood, and it is going to enter your Bowman's capsule to go through your nephron, or that little structure thereafter, which is your proximal convoluted tubule. So glucose will leave the blood and enter there. So this is why glucose is in the filtrate. But once the filtrate enters the proximal convoluted tubule, the glucose is reabsorbed into the blood as it is needed by the body, and it is not a waste material. There is no glucose, therefore, in the urine. So let me see if I can help you guys. We have to get glucose out of the urine, out of the blood initially, because it is a small molecule when we filter the blood. However, glucose is important. We don't want to get rid of that molecule. So somewhere along the line, it is reabsorbed and taken back into the blood. That is why it does not leave your body through your urine. Now, if you still don't understand, I'm going to ask that you go ask your teacher, get to your notebook. It means that you have a topic that you need to cover. If you understand, kudos to you. Explain why protein is found in neither the filtrate nor the urine. So if we go back to the table, we do not see any trace of protein in the filtrate or in the urine. Right? Now, the reason for this is that protein is a large enough molecule, so large that it remains in the blood during ultrafiltration. And under normal conditions, it will never be found in the filtrate or the urine. Now, if you've ever done a urine test and they would have told you that protein is in your urine, it is usually a red flag that maybe something is off somewhere. So that's why your doctors would intervene and probably tell you measures to take. But protein under normal circumstances should not be found in our urines because it is too large of a molecule to be passed out of your blood during filtration. All right, that will give you 2 marks. And that's question 2. How was question 2? Was it harder than question 1? How do you think you would do? All right, let's look at question 3. It says, state 2 ways in which genetic variation occurs in living organisms. Now, the first one is in mutations, if there is a change in the DNA sequence. And the second one is crossing over, which is genetic recombination during sexual reproduction or meiosis. Now, human and social biology students, this topic may not be one of your favorites, but it is a topic that they can ask you questions on. So if you have not looked at the genetics part of your syllabus as yet, I'm going to ask that you take your time and do so. All right, so that's 2 marks. No, it's the first I've ever seen CSEC put fill in the blanks on an exam paper. And students, this just goes to show that you can do well on the exams. Fill in the blanks is for very low grades, right? We are talking about primary school and grade 7 to 9 or 1st to 3rd form. So there is no way you should not be able to complete a fill in the blank, right? And they give you the words. So let's look at it. It says complete the following paragraph by inserting the correct word from the list of words provided below. So they give you the list of words. It says the process where organisms with favorable traits are more likely to reproduce is called natural selection. These traits are passed to the next generation. Over time, this process allows organisms to adapt to their environment. Tell me if that wasn't an easy 4 marks. Easy. And even if you didn't get all 4 marks, come on, these traits are passed to the next generation, right? So that one right there would be 1. And over time, this process allows organisms to dash to their environment, must be adapted. So students, do not underestimate how CSEC will put your questions. It could come back just as easy as this. So we ask that you prepare yourself. So 4 easy marks right there. Now, they have also given a picture in this question. It says, identify 2 examples of continuous variation that can be observed in figure 4. Now, continuous variation in humans has no distinct categories, right? And it can be influenced by genetics and the physical environment. So if you're looking at a picture, you are looking for the characteristics that you cannot definitely say, this is it, this is it, this is it. And you cannot say that it is just influenced by the genes of the child or the person, but it can also be influenced by the physical environment. So the continuous variation characteristic that you can observe from this picture would be skin color. So if you realize there are different shades, it's not just white or black. We have various shades of skin color. Hair length is also one. Remember, your hair length could be a cause of your genetics, but it can also be influenced by your environment, right? So if you are living somewhere where you are not getting a lot of nutrients, it might limit your hair growth. It could also be that you cut your hair because that is the style you prefer. So hair growth or hair length, sorry, your weight is also a continuous variation. So it could be on the thicker side just because your family, they are on the thicker side, or just because you eat a lot. There's a lot of food at home, so you eat. And it could be that you are slim because you are coming from a family that is made up of slim built persons, or it's that you just don't eat a lot of food. So those would be continuous characteristics, right? Or characteristics that represent continuous variation in humans. They can be affected by your genetics or your environment. So I hope that clarifies what continuous variation looks like for you. And it also says you must identify the example of discontinuous variation in figure 4. The example that would definitely give you a mark would be sex. So if you realize it is distinct, discontinuous variation means that these are the only possible characteristics that can be displayed in the species, right? So if we're looking at humans, sex can only either be male or female, and we're looking at the science of it now. So I don't want anybody to come and bash me. We're looking at the science of it. So there must be some sex assigned to you. So you're either male or female at birth, okay? And so that is discontinuous. Also, eye color is discontinuous as well. But we could not see eye color from this. But if say for instance in the exam your brain just it's not working right and you forget that you can either have sex being the main one, you could say their eye color as well. All right, so that is 1 mark. Let's go on to part D of the question. It says the table below shows 2 scenarios. Each scenario in the table, use a tick to show whether antibiotics should be used. Give 1 reason for each response. Now, it says in the scenario, right, before you look at the answers, it says in the scenario, Ravi contracted influenza at school. Should antibiotic be used? The answer would be no. The reason is influenza is caused by a virus. Antibiotics only work for bacterial infection. Hence the word antibiotic. The biotic part of the word means bio, which means life, or in this case bacteria. Anti means against, so this is being used against bacterial infections. And influenza, the flu, is caused by a virus, so antibiotics would not work. Mitch, this is the second scenario, Mitch has been diagnosed with syphilis. Antibiotic use? Yes. Why? Syphilis is caused by a bacteria and can be treated by antibiotics. And for this, you would get 4 marks, 2 marks for your 2 ticks, and 2 marks for your 2 reasons. Now, it says to explain why the misuse of antibiotics is a dangerous practice. Now, the reason for this is antibiotic misuse can lead to antibiotic resistance, which can lead to more serious infections that cannot be treated by that antibiotic again. So let me give you an example. Mitch, right, has syphilis. He goes to the doctor and he gets antibiotic and his syphilis clears up. Or he does not use the antibiotic the way the doctor says he should. So when you go to the doctor, it is usually prescribed, that you take a certain amount for a certain amount of days. Now, when you miss a day of taking that antibiotic, what you can do is cause the bacterium that is causing the disease to build up resistance to that particular antibiotic. And so if you keep using it, the bacteria will say, we are immune to this, we are used to this can't hurt us. So you would have to go back to the doctor and he would have to prescribe another type of antibiotic, which in the case would usually be stronger. If you fail to take that one properly the second time around, it could lead to more antibiotic resistance, and it could also cause that bacterium or the bacterium that is in your body, the bacteria in your body, to mutate and cause even greater symptoms of the disease and can lead to other diseases. So when we talk about misuse of antibiotics, this is what we don't want to happen. So if you are somebody who you just don't like to take medication, when it gets to antibiotics, please be mindful that if you do not take it correctly, you can end up with causing that antibiotic resistance in the bacterium that's making you sick. So if you didn't know that before, you know that now, and if you knew it already, congrats. Now it says, study the equation below and answer the questions that follow. Name the process represented by the equation above. And you saw the answer already, that's photosynthesis. Now, this equation is the chemical equation, and that's why I say to the students, please learn your chemical equations. I know this is not chemistry, but it is required of you to know them. H2O is water. CO2, carbon dioxide, C6H12O6 is glucose, and 6O2 is oxygen. Please make a note of it. And we know water plus carbon dioxide in the presence of light and chlorophyll gives us glucose and oxygen. So it is obviously photosynthesis. All right, and that's 1 mark. Now state the function of the process in the equation above. It's to make food in plants. All right, that's another mark. It says identify the cell organelle in which the process represented by the equation above occurs. Do you remember where photosynthesis occurs in the plant? Or in the cell, I should say. Do you remember? If you said the chloroplast, you are correct. So that would be a mark for you in your exam. It also says identify the pigment responsible for capturing light in the process shown in the equation above. Do you know what the pigment is called that traps or captures light? If you said chlorophyll, that's 1 mark. And it says, state the name of each of the products shown in the equation above. And this is already given because I called out all of the words that would have been represented in the equation. If you say glucose and oxygen, that is 2 marks. And that is the question. That is the part of the question. Guys, if you are looking at this exam and saying, but this is very easy, I'm glad I'm giving you some excitement for May, June. So let us continue. It says, explain how each of the products shown in the equation on page 13 is critical to the survival of other organisms. Now, it's asking you to basically state the importance of glucose and oxygen. So glucose is converted to starch and other complex sugars, which are used as food sources for animals and humans, right? So that would be how it is critical to the survival of other organisms. And the oxygen is the gas which is needed for respiration and gaseous exchange in other animals. All right, so that would give you your 4 marks, and I think we could all figure it out. So good so far. I think this exam so far is pretty manageable, pretty easy. Now it says an agricultural engineer is developing 2 different varieties of sweet potato, A and B, as shown in figures 5 and 6. Now it says explain which variety, A or B, is likely to produce a greater yield of sweet potato. Now if you're looking at these 2 plants and saying, then how will I find out which plant will give me more sweet potato? You must look at the one part that they have labeled, the leaves. Now, you have a non-variated leaf for variety A and a variated leaf for variety B. Now, variegated leaf means that there are sections which are white and do not contain chlorophyll, so that part of the leaf cannot photosynthesize. And you have the non-variegated leaf, which means all of the leaf is green. So which one do you think would produce more sweet potato? The answer would be variety A, and the reason is that A is likely to produce a greater yield of sweet potato due to the fact that the leaves are fully green. These leaves will probably be able to photosynthesize at a greater rate than plant B, and plant B lacks chlorophyll in its very variated sections, and so it is not fully green and would not be able to produce the same amount of food like plant A because of the lower rate of photosynthesis. All right, so that's the reason why we would get less food from B and more from A. Now it says the last part of this question suggests the test the engineer would have to conduct to confirm the major food group found in the sweet potatoes. The test would be the iodine test, and we know we test for starch with iodine test. And just a pop question, what color change should I see if I test something for iodine and if I test something for starch and it gives me a positive test? What's the color change? Blue, black is the color change. So if you said that, you are good to go. So let's look at section B. Question 5. During the rainy season, governments are very concerned about the spread of vector-borne diseases. A. Define the term vector. A vector is an organism that transports or carries pathogens, which are disease-causing agents, to an uninfected organism, which is the host. B. Name one mosquito-borne disease that is common in the Caribbean. We know we are very troubled with dengue fever in the Caribbean. You could also say malaria. Right? So dengue or malaria could be an answer. It says, describe how the disease named in B is transmitted. So we know how dengue fever is transmitted, right? The dengue virus is transported in the Aedes aegypti mosquito and is released in the bloodstream of a healthy person when the mosquito bites him or her. And you may be wondering, I heard this among some of my students, how is it that the mosquito, if it is taking blood away, is able to give the disease? Now, how the mosquito actually does its job is once it bites you, it releases, right, its enzymes into your body, which causes your little area there that it bites to become raised. That's why you get a little bump, and that is when the pathogen can enter your bloodstream. The reason they have to release this enzyme in your body to cause the bump is because the bump will help to push the capillaries that contain blood up to the surface to reach their mouth part for them to suck the blood. So this is how they can give you the disease even though they are taking blood away. All right, so they basically release that enzyme along with the pathogen into your blood. All right. The next part says, state one sign or symptom of the disease named in the section above. And you know, when you have dengue, you get a fever, you may have headaches, pain behind the eyes, rash, and vomiting. And in some cases, we may have blood also coming up if it is a hemorrhagic fever. So there might be blood coming up from the vomit or right from the I think it's the nose. I can't remember completely. All right. C. It says, compare and contrast the life cycle of a mosquito with that of a housefly. Now, similarities between the life cycle of the mosquito and the housefly. Both houseflies and mosquitoes go through a life cycle of the 4 same stages, namely egg, larvae, pupa, and adult. However, the difference is that the mosquito's egg, larvae, and pupa stages live entirely in water, while housefly life cycle occurs entirely in decaying matter on land. All right. Now it says, recommend 4 ways in which communities and governments can reduce the transmission of diseases by mosquitoes and houseflies. And students, recommend, whenever you see the word recommend or suggest, these are your opinions. Once they are totally sensible, even if you've never seen them in a textbook and they are sensible, we can use them and give you your marks. Now it says, remove breeding sites, remove containers that catch water for mosquitoes, and remove refuse and garbage for flies. 2, you can fog the environment to kill the adult mosquitoes. You can pour oil on large bodies of water or add chemical insecticides to large open water bodies. You can use mesh to cover windows and doors to prevent these insects from entering your home. And if you have one that you use in your home and your community that you just don't see here, you can add it and it would still give you your mark. Now, students, I have never seen this, or I don't remember the last time I have seen this cycle on a human and social biology paper. So I would ask that if you are studying for your May June exam, just do a quick revision of the cycles, and you know them: the carbon cycle, the water cycle, etc. So it says figure 7 shows various processes labeled A to E that occur in the water cycle. And we're at the last question, people, so let's get through this. Identify any 3 of the labeled processes in figure 7. The letter labels must be included in your response. So we have A, right, from the sea going to the cloud. B, from the cloud and the plant going to the other cloud. We have C, from the animals going to the cloud. We have another cloud going to another one. D, where we have some lightning. E, we have arrows coming down. All right. Now, A would be liquid going to gas. So we have evaporation from the sea to the cloud. B would be some transpiration because it's coming from the plant, water leaving the plant. C would be respiration, some water vapor leaving the animals once they are respiring. D would be condensation. Whatever the cloud is giving off would be condensed, right? So we would have the air forming water droplets, right? We see lightning, so it must be some rain. And E would be precipitation. Now, people, the reason why E is precipitation is because you must note that this arrow here is not a mountain. If it was a mountain, maybe E would be water runoff or something like that. But the fact that we have E coming directly down, there is no mountain, tells us it's some form of precipitation, right? Whether it is rain or snow. And they ask us to identify any 3. And I would have given you all 5. So any of the 3 that you clearly identify and remember, you could have put there and you get your answer. So even if it is A, B, and C, you would get it. No, people, whenever you see an arrow leaving animals, whether it be cows, goats, humans, going up to the air, you must know that it is respiration. All right? Now, B, list 3 ways in which water can be purified in your home. And if it says list, you just list. You can boil water, use chlorine, and distill water at your home. Last part of the question. Figure 8 and figure 9 are graphs which show sources of pollutants at 2 different locations. So we have pollutants at location X and source of pollutants at location Y. Suggest the type of land use that is occurring at location X and location Y. Now, if you do social studies, this should come back to you. Location X and location Y. Let's look at X, Y I put here that is agricultural. If we use the key, we can realize that 30% of the land is taken up by animal feed, right? And a whopping 60% of the land is taken up by fertilizers. So it is an indication that if we have so much animal feed and so much fertilizer, then this must be an agricultural land use, right? That land that is being used. And also it has very small amounts of sewage and very small amounts of detergents. Now, when we look at location Y, we see that the majority of its pollutants is coming from sewage. That means that there must be a lot of homes, a lot of businesses in that area. Also, for 25%, we have a lot of detergents, as again, we use detergents in the home. Only 3% is used by animal feed and 7% by fertilizers. So the majority of it there is some urban use. So I have here residential just because I say, well, 25% of detergents must mean that people are in their homes washing clothes. But I guess I would think the best answer would be residential. Right, residential, because the detergent is the giveaway. The sewage, if we had less detergents and the amount of sewage that we still have, it would more than likely be urban area, so right, urban land use. So we have agricultural and residential, 2 marks, just for looking at the graphs and just for noting the majority of what is being done there. Explain 2 social and or economic effects that can occur if the pollutants from location X and location Y were to enter the waterways. So this here, it comes all back down to human and social biology. This is why it is different from straight biology. We have to look at how it impacts people, right? And their livelihoods and their lifestyle. Now, the social aspects One, this could lead to fish death. If we have the pollutants entering the waterways, this could lead to fish death, which affects the livelihood of fisher folk and reduces the food for their family and the community. So we're talking about this affecting the community. So it's social. Another social reason is this could cause the waterways to lead to more diseases, and the disease outbreaks in the community would cause those members, right, to become sick, and then you're looking at a breakdown of their ability to work for their families. So it affects their livelihoods and their lifestyle. Economic, no, you know, when you hear economic, it's talking about the money. The fishermen would lose their income for their families because they're not able to sell the amount of fish that they usually would, right? And maybe there is a stigma against eating fish from that river once they realize that it is so heavily polluted. So that could cause them some economic embarrassment. And another reason is that the government now, once all of this pollution is in the waterway, the government will need to allocate funds for cleanup projects and environmental restoration projects, which will cost money. So if the campaigns to clean up this environment is going to cost the government money, another economic problem too would be that when the people get sick, remember they are going to go to the hospitals. The hospitals would need more medication to take care of this disease that they would have had, which would cause maybe an outbreak in that area. So those hospitals would require more funding to treat and care for these patients. So when we talk about social and economic, think about the people, think about yourself. How would this affect you? All right. And I think this is the last question that they ask you for. It says recommend 3 strategies that could be employed to reduce the pollutants from location X and location Y. Now I have 2 here. 1, charge the persons who are caught practicing improper waste management. So you can charge them a fine. 2, the government can educate the public on the correct ways to care for the environment. All right. So we can have public campaigns. We can charge a fine for those who are practicing improper waste disposal. You could also, as my third option, you could fence the area. You could put up signs to show the community members that this area is now restricted and it should not be dumped. No illegal dumping should take place there. You could also try and provide the community members, right, with resources to reduce their improper waste management. So bins could be placed there. You could provide them with the gloves and garbage bags for cleanup. So all of these are strategies that could be employed to reduce the pollutants from location X and location Y. And that is the end of the test. Now, people, how was it? I know that you're studying for your exams. I know that you will do well. Share this video with your friends. Share them with your classmates. Remember, we have other videos here just for help you pass your exams. I pray that you will do well. Come back for other videos because we are in the exam season. Remember, with God, all results can be distinct.